So the question is, the same contradictions in Nigeria are also there within Igbo land. We cry of marginalization at the larger Nigeria, but there is also cries of marginalization within. There is the identity question within. There is the citizenship and indigenship question within. How many other Igbos live in Aba and in Abia, for example? But, I don't know, 2 years or 3 years ago, that was the indigenship thing, that all non-Abia citizens were sacked from but these people had lived there, worked there, paid their taxes there. They were counted as part of Abia in the census. You collect revenue, more revenue because of them. But then, no, you can't work in there. You are not an indigent. So while we are pointing one finger there, ladies and gentlemen, look closely. The other three are saying, let's get it here. And so how can this new leadership emerge? And then, of course, the entry fee is very high. The fourth, the new Biafranism, and that is my last point. And let me say that Nigeria has wittingly or unwittingly dragged the Biafran issue from the periphery into the mainstream discussion. Nnamdi Kanu, in my view, threw a bait, and Nigeria took it. Today, he is the most popular political prisoner and will end up either as a hero or a martyr. But to his credit, he has forced Nigeria and the world to discuss Biafra. I believe that keeping him there does not do Nigeria any good. I believe this young man should be released, and released like yesterday. I will not be surprised if he becomes a subject of the next political campaigns. Just like we dealt with Awolowo, who was convicted and imprisoned of treason, or Gowon, charged with treason, or even Ojukwu himself was forgiven, and so on and so forth. I don't want to make any predictions, but I believe we need to solve this. Because according to that, the detention of Uwazurike between 2005 to 2007 helped to radicalize his followers. The same thing happened when the leader of Boko Haram was killed. His followers became more radicalized. Detention of Nnamdi Kanu, I never heard of him before this time, to be quite honest. Never heard of him. I didn't even know about the IPOB or whatever thing. Until this thing, and you now realize globally it's become an issue and it's become mainstream. Now, and again, quote, he says, this book argues that the idea of a customary government under the Supreme Council of Elders in accordance with customary law enjoys the support among a section of the Igbo, but it is the Biafra or death philosophy of Nnamdi Kanu that found resonance across the length and breadth of the Igbo nation. Therefore, there cannot be a resolution of the Biafran dilemma without a wholesome engagement of the Nnamdi Kanu stroke Uche Mefo faction of IPOB. End of quote. That's what this was. So, if I were President Buhari, quite honestly, I would be very suspicious of anyone who advises me to ignore the Biafran issue. I'll be very suspicious. Anybody who says that is either ignorant or being mischievous or quite patently doesn't mean well for the government itself. It probably wants the same government to repeat the mistakes of the past so that it could lead it down the train. We must start learning in this country. So let's talk Biafra. Where are the Igbo elite and the intelligentsia in all of this, especially those in Nigeria? It seems, as this book points out, this is being driven mostly by the Igbo intelligentsia in diaspora, the new resurgence. The new ones within, there seems to be a division, 3 classes you can identify. The ones within the mainland, and I'm shocked, and you discussed, they have a different point of view. Those in diaspora within Nigeria, so to speak, who are in Abuja and Lagos and so on and so forth, Kano, Kaduna, and so on. And an elder was asked about that, living in one of these northern states, about Biafra, and they asked him, what do you think about this Biafra? He said, well, I just didn't know. In other words, they should keep it up, but you know I can no longer go now. You see all the things I have here, I cannot carry them on my head. So, there seems to be a sense of either denial, and on one part, or people who think, no, it won't be, because we can't just imagine it. And because of some discussion that, oh, okay, if this happens, you will lose your property, you will lose that, and so on. Of course, that is untenable. I mean, I too was wrong on this, because if by any chance you have another state of Biafra, it will be the 16th state of ECOWAS. And that means you have free movement of goods and persons. But the fundamental question, the fundamental issue is that this debate is not happening. This whole thing is being driven almost in a haphazard manner. Last week, they called for, was that last week? Yeah, last week. They called for a sit at home. And even without anybody getting out or more informed,
in the Times newspaper, and I want this thing to be published, please. I want it to be published tonight, immediately. I want it published on my page. I want people to understand a letter that was written in the Times of London, July 15, 1998. I repeat, the Times of London, Wednesday, July 15, 1998. Let me read it for you. It was written by a white man. You understand? Written by a white man. His name is Peter Smithers. Peter, P-E-T-E-R. You have Peter. Smithers is S-M-I-T-H-E-R-S. He wrote it. He was writing to the British government. He's a white man, he's British. As I said before, the British people are very conscientious people. An average Briton is a nice human being. An average Englishman, an average Scottish man, an average Welshman, an average Irishman, they are wonderful, beautiful people. But once you take them away from the streets of London, or Belfast, or Glasgow, or Edinburgh, the case may be, or Cardiff, and you put them in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office dealing with colonial matters or dealing with Africa, they turn into beasts, they turn into monsters. I don't know why. Somebody wrote a letter. It's called the Nigerian Lesson. This is in the Times of London. As I repeat, Times of London, Wednesday, July 15, 1998. Somebody kindly sent it to me, and I'll read it so that the whole world may hear. This is from Sir Peter Smithers. He's a knight of the realm. The proper sir, not the sir you have in the zoo. Only the come up with a chair knight, you know. These are the proper, these are the knights of the realm of the British Empire. Now listen. Sir, I'm now reading verbatim the letter written by Sir Peter Smithers to the Times newspaper of London. Listen, sir. During the negotiations for the independence of Nigeria, the view of the Secretary of State at that time, with which I agreed, was that in Nigeria, we should attempt to put together a large and powerful state with ample material resources which will play a leading part in the affairs of the continent and of the world. This was attractive, but it involved forcing several different ethnic and cultural groups into a single political structure. The negotiations were complex and very difficult. The chief problem, as I recall or I remember, relating significantly to the control of the police and of the military. Listen carefully, please. In the retrospect of 40 years, it is clear that this was a grave mistake, which has cost many lives and will probably continue to do so. It would have been better to establish several smaller states in a free trade area. Even some British people realized after 40 years of failed experiment called Nigeria, Sir Peter Smithers, who worked in the zoo colonial desk, he is writing, we wanted to build a country that is so big that we can control, more or less. And that very big country, our problem then was who to give the police and the army to. And they gave it to Fulani. The man is now saying, with hindsight, after 40 years, many people, he wrote this thing in 1998, not 2020, 1998. This white man knew that Fulanis were using army and police to kill people in 1998. He said, after 40 years of this experiment called Zoo, Nigeria, that they created, that it is a mistake. White man is a mistake. Now, he said, we should have gone for small states. Now, this goes back to our Aburi conference. Our people should be able to reason. This was the reason why Britain said no to Aburi. Because Aburi was about confederation. Ojukwu went to Aburi, agreed confederation, came back home in Enugu, and Gowon launched a war instead of implementing that Aburi that would have allowed smaller nations to emerge, but in a free trade zone called Nigeria. Gowon said no because British told him to say no. Because Britain wanted a large country that has influence in Africa that they can control, but to achieve that control, they needed to place the military and the police in the hands of the Janjaweed, Fulani, Miyetiala. And that was what they did. And that is why we are suffering till today. This man said people are dying. Let me continue. In exculpation, it must be said that we did not then have the examples of the collapse of Yugoslavia and of Soviet Union before our eyes. In other words, the man is saying that Nigeria, the zoo you have, Nigeria to some of you, is the same thing as Yugoslavia, the same thing as Soviet Union. And it is bound to collapse. That is what this man is lamenting in 1998. He is saying, we did not have the benefit of the collapse of Soviet Union or Yugoslavia to tell us what to do in the case of the animals in the zoo, Nigeria. Are you listening? This is from a British man, a high-ranking officer. He is a sir, he's a knight of the realm, Sir Peter Smithers. I will continue. It should now be clear for all, but the willfully blind, this is how intelligent this man is saying. It is clear to everybody, to both cockroach and rat, okay, Mochicha, everybody knows it is clear, unless you're living in denial, unless you are a denier of the truth, unless you are foolish. This is from a white man, please, not me. Unless you are willfully blind to see that it is extremely dangerous to force diverse racial and social entities into a single rigid political structure such as that which is being built upon the foundation of the Maastricht Treaty. This man was saying the reason why Britain left the EU, the reason why Britain opposed, some of you don't know what is Maastricht Treaty, but I will tell you some other day. It was a treaty of European Union that Britain refused to sign. This man is saying the same mistakes of the past we are about to repeat. What is that mistake? To willfully join together. He said it is extremely dangerous. A white man is saying is that Nigeria as it exists today, Nigeria, is extremely dangerous because you are forcing diverse racial and social entities into a single rigid political structure that is unsustainable. Now, recent history, according to this man, Peter Smithers, sir, of course, he's a knight of the realm. Recent history suggests that it would be best to complete the development of the common market and to call a halt to political integration in Europe. These are the people of Brexit. They don't want Britain to be a part of one big political superstructure. The man is saying the same thing we built in Nigeria that is costing lives. And who is this man that wrote this? He said, I am, sir, your obedient servant, Sir Peter Smithers. Listen to his title. Parliamentary Private Secretary to the Minister of State and the Secretary of State in the Colonial Office from 1952 to 1959. And he lives in Vico Makote in Switzerland. Are you listening? These are people that knew that putting a country together, people of diverse social backgrounds. In Igbo land, am I the same thing with a Fulani man? The answer is no. I am related to Efik, to Ibibu. I'm related to Asian, as they call it, Upiaja. I am related to Igoromiko, the people who are there. I have relationship with Urobo. I know I can relate to Isoko culture. I can relate to Ishekiri culture. But can I relate to Fulani culture? The answer is no. Maybe even to an extent, I can relate to Yoruba culture, Yoruba culture, to an extent. But do you think I can ever relate to Fulani culture? Of course, the answer is no. Because Fulani runs a feudal system, a rank-added system, where one big man stays at the top and gives you tea in the morning and asks you to go and stone somebody and you can do it. That's what they do. Do you see the difference between an egalitarian society and one that is so structured that order will come from the emir or from the sadiki or whoever? We are not like that. That is not democracy. And that value system was what the Fulanis brought to Asorok. These are the things that your so-called social scientists and your political analysts don't understand. What is playing out in Asorok today is the same janjaweed feudal system, where one person stays at the top and just keeps distributing money that they did not work for. Money that they didn't earn. That is what is happening in the zoo. That same thing was what they brought to the center in Asorok, and some of you are too blind to see it. When we tell you that the zoo, Nigeria, is unworkable, try to understand there is no nation on this earth where you have.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, great and wonderful people of Biafra, lovers of freedom all over the world. I welcome you, I greet you according to your time zone and welcome you to this program. While you are joining us, share the video, invite others to join. We are live on Facebook at Judge Money Blog. We are live on YouTube at Judge Money Blog Africa. We are live on Twitter at Judge Money C. And we welcome all the international communities that are tagged on that Twitter space. And we also, greet and welcome the Department of International Relations, _/ _ ZA. So we welcome all the entities that we tagged on that Twitter space, because we are here also to continue to campaign for our freedom. Of course, you've heard from our leader, Onyendu Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, who is placed in a solitary confinement for telling us the gospel truth and reminding us the history. And this evening, this morning or this afternoon, depending on your time zone, I might not be able to speak very loud because I don't have a voice. I haven't been online because I haven't been feeling good. But I am actually trying to force it today because I've been trying to do this government in exile for a while now. So I just want to bring it up and get it done with, so that the people will understand our stance in this issue of government in exile. After this evening, you will understand exactly what is our take on the government in exile and what it signifies, if there is any positivities around it. You will understand after I actually give you this information through the introductory document of government in exile rather. So This evening we are going to be talking about, of course, you saw the post in front of your screen here, bring it back, the foreign policy, their response to the Nigeria election, just like you see the first poster in front of you. Nigeria election, US congratulates victor while experts doubt results. That is from foreign policy. They also say, okay, the other one, the ones on the ground is these people calling for the debate between Chimamanda and Wolosho. You know, it is, I have only very simple word to tell those people. You know, you cannot compare, you cannot compare those two. They are great people in their own sides, and then of course being a great person does not mean that at some point you will not derail and become a bad person. So Wolosho have chosen his path. I don't think it is necessary to start comparing the scores of these two people. The other one is young, her future is still right in front of her. The other one is old, her future is gone. But the only problem I have with him is that he wants to ruin the future that he's not going to be part of. That is the only problem I have with him. So those who are calling for the debate, it doesn't make sense because you cannot win. It is not going to benefit you anything. Comparing people's achievements and all that, it's not going to achieve us anything. But I want to emphasize on these foreign policies and their declaration. Let me get more people into this program, because I will only be here for like 1 hour. I will not take much of your time, because if I stay longer I might have the light might affect me, so I don't want to stay long in front of the light and the blue screen. So great and wonderful people of Biafra, welcome to this program. Share the video, invite others to join. First of all, let us go to this. Who is a recognized government in exile? Let me bring the introductory document that talks about government in exile. Let me bring it so that we will read it in order to find out who exactly is supposed to be recognized as a government in exile. Those of you who are joining us, you are welcome. We're just starting this program on Facebook, so welcome. Of course, right in front of your screen is an article. It is a PDF that was written and introduced by Talmon. In this document, you will understand who is. His name is Stephen Talmon. You will understand who is the government in exile, what do they stand for, and what is their job, and who is actually a legal government in exile. So I am going to read from this document that is right in front of you, and I will proceed with the reading. Who is legitimate government in exile? Towards normative criteria for governmental legitimacy in the international law. Stephen Talmon. The reason why I am reading this is there is, what is flying all over the place. People are calling themselves, they are prime minister, they are government in exile. They have formed it, they have done that under the leadership of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, which doesn't make any sense. Under the leadership of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, you form a government in exile, you name yourself prime minister. So let us read this article. At the end of this article, we'll understand who is the legitimate government in exile. So, the introduction. It says, in the recent years, such diverse authority in exile as Coalition Government of Democratic of Kampuchea, CGDK. 1979 to 1990, the Dalvele government of Panama. 1989 to 1988 to 89, the Sabah government of Kuwait. Okay, let me not go through all these introductions. Let me start from here. I want to pick up the ones that we are going to understand more. President Kaba, the democratically elected leader of Sierra Leone, was deposed in a military coup. In 1997, Britain continued to recognize President Kaba as the legitimate head of government of Sierra Leone. Earlier this year, President Kaba was restored to power. That was a positive outcome and represented the restoration of the legitimate and democratic government in place of a military regime. So, several other authorities in exile, such as the Dalai Lama's government of Tibet in exile. So what it is telling us here, it is about how are you going to, who are those recognized as government in exile? In the event of military coup, which he gave an example of this president of Sierra Leone, when there was a military coup, president of Sierra Leone has to go to exile to seek for a refuge in order to make sure that he stay alive while presiding from exile over the matters at hand in his country, who actually democratically, through a democratic process, elected him into power. That's one of the example. So when we finish bring up this example, you will know which category your prime minister fall under, so that we will, whenever we are presenting our matter, we will be presenting it as people who are intelligent and people who knows what we are doing, because the plan of the enemy is all about trying to make us look stupid in front of those whom we are presenting our cases to. It is actually the faction that they always create in order to use them to destroy anything that you do, especially in Africa. They will create a faction that will oppose and try to demolish and destroy everything that you are putting in place in order to win. So let us continue. Now, several other authorities in exile, such as Dalai Lama's government of Tibet and in exile, and the hosted Hutu government of Rwanda, 1994, or the deposed Emir of Qatar, 1995, on the other hand, have not been recognized as legitimate government, although reference to legitimacy in the case of government in exile is not without precedent. Already, during the Second World War, the exiled Allied government in London were sometimes referred to as the legitimate government or legitimate representatives of their countries. Under Axis domination, the attribute legitimate has been added to the government with any frequency only in recent times. What is not clear is who is legitimate government in exile in international law and what distinguishes a simple government either in exile or in situ, which is situ, I-S-I-T-U, which is where it began, if our situ is in Biafra land. From a legitimate government, these questions are of fundamental importance as only legitimate. Now, this is actually showing you that anybody can just wake up and call themselves, we are government in exile. So, when they woke up from their bed and decided that they have the food they ate last night is still in their stomach, they wake up and they call themselves, we are government in exile. They start sharing posts amongst themselves, amongst even people who are, illegal in their place of domicile, amongst those who does not even know or have any idea of being a leader or government. Anybody can wake up and call themselves government in exile. And that is the reason why they have to write a letter to United Nations to actually make, act like they are writing a letter for you. But on the other hand, they are writing a letter trying their luck to see if the United Nations will recognize those people in the name that they have formed government in exile in a country that does not exist yet. A country that does not exist, that is not yet in existence. That is number one. Let us continue to read, because we are going to actually, learn a lot here. Government in exile are regarded as competent to bind their state, dispose of its asset abroad, protect its nationals, represent their state in judicial proceedings and the international fora, and most importantly, consent to arm pro-democratic or humanitarian intervention in their state. How many humanitarian intervention are these people who claim they are government in exile has ever done in the state of Biafra that is not yet, declared? Now, how many humanitarian jobs have they, taken part in doing? Rather, they collect money from these people who they're supposed to look after. They collect their money, use it to enrich themselves, give themselves posts of various caliber, and they will be answering, telling you they are doing this, they are doing that for you. Let's continue to read, because I want it to come from the legal point of view, not from Judge Money's point of view. So, it has been said that it is almost impossible to set out a clear-cut criteria for government in exile, as the relevant decision concerning the attribution of competence lie exclusively with the government of the recognizing state. However, if the notion of legitimate government is to be more than a relative concept, in that each state, by its own unfettered discretion, can decide who and who is not the legitimate government of another state, then there must be certain minimum criteria which an authority in exile must fulfill to qualify as a legitimate government in international law. Practice shows that states do not feel free to recognize any authority in exile they like as the legitimate government of another state. In this connection, it is important to distinguish between a different meaning of recognition. Recognition may indicate the recognizing state's willingness to enter into a certain relationship, and insofar it is within its discretion, and or express its opinion on the legal status of the authority recognized, and insofar it is regulated by international law. Recognition is used as a rule in the letter, meaning if the authority in the question is not just accorded recognition, but it is recognized as something, for example, as a legitimate government, it must be a legitimate government from your situ, which is where you come from, where you are running away from, where you come to exile from. So now, recognition is used as a rule in the latter meaning. if the authority in question is not just accorded recognition, but is recognized as something, for example, as a legitimate government or as the sole legitimate representatives of a people. Since the beginning of this century, some 75 authority in exile have called themselves or claim to be the government of certain state. Of these, more than half have been recognized as a legitimate government. Remember, it says that, let me read it again. Let me read this part again, so pay very good attention. Recognition is used as a rule in the latter meaning if the authority in the question is not just accorded recognition, but is recognized as something, for example, as a legitimate government a legitimate government which is recognized from Year 2 as the sole legitimate representative of people. Since the beginning of the century, some 75 authority in exile have called themselves or claim. They said 75. I want you to mark that path. Let me highlight it. Let me find it again and highlight it here. Since the beginning of the century, 75. Here it is. Some 75 authorities in exile have called themselves or recognized as legitimate government by examining what authority in exile states have recognized as government, and by asking for this reason for their recognition or non-recognition decision, it is hoped to establish in a first step. Which now, in a first step, the minimum criteria for recognition of an authority is a government, which is the criteria for the status of government laid down by international law. In a second step, it will then be asked what makes a government legitimate in the eyes of international law. Let's find out. Criteria for government status. Number one, state. State. S-T-A-T-E. State, which must be a recognized state. Now let's continue to read. According to the predominant view in the legal literature, government in exile is not a subject of international law, but the representative organ of the international legal person state, and as such, the depository of its sovereignty. I hope you are paying attention. So there must be sovereignty. Because this depository of its sovereignty is like a power, the power from its sovereignty. So there must be a sovereignty before there will be existence. The government in exile will come to the party. So that's what it says here. Number one, it says state. Which state is like when there is a state, it means that you have a sovereignty. According to the predominant view in the legal literature, government in exile is not a subject of international law, but the representative organ of the international legal person, state, and as such, the depository of its sovereignty, power of its sovereignty. There can thus logically be no government, either in exile or in situ. There can thus logically be no government, either in exile or the origin, which is situ, without the legal existence of the state, which, are you paying attention? Without the legal existence of the state, there can be no government, there can thus logically be no government. Let me highlight it because it is in front of your screen so that you will also read with me. Those of you who are getting carried away, government in exile, we have written to United Nations and we are waiting for the answer. Just because they heard Chimamanda wrote to US president, they've started writing, but let's continue. Let me read again. According to the predominant view in the legal literature, government in exile is not a subject of international law, but the representative organ of the international legal person's state, and as such, the depository of its sovereignty, power. There can thus logically be no government either in exile or in situ, which is the place of origin, without the legal existence of the state, which they, on the legal status of the authority in exile, recognize as a legitimate government. Okay, so if the state doesn't exist, there will be no government. The state has to be in existence before there will be government. On the legal status of authority in exile, recognized as a legitimate government, C.S. Talmon, Recognition of Government in International Law, Oxford, 1998. And M. Rota, Government in Exile in the Bamhat, Encyclopedia of the Public International Law 2, Amsterdam, 1995. Okay, let me move away from this one because it is not something that is for your understanding. Government represents a brief for the British Secretary of State of early March 1943 on the British attitude of Albanian noted. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. They don't regard Albanian state as now existing because they want to Okay, let me read it again. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that, I think I jumped it. Sorry for that. A brief for the, let me highlight it so that you will also confirm the reading or you read it with me. It is not that huge. Let me try to see if I can zoom it a bit. Okay, I can. If I can zoom it while reading it, it will be easier. I don't know if you can see the zoom. Yeah, I think it's better. Okay, government represents a brief for the British Secretary of State, early March 1943, on the British attitude of Albania noted. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. They wish to establish Albanian state, which they have not yet established it. So they don't consider it as being in existence, which is exactly what these people, agent provocateur, is doing. They have not yet established a Biafran state. Because before you declare such thing, you need to declare the state of Biafra before you now form a government that will preside over the state. Without you declaration of the state of Biafra, there is no government. How can there be government for a state that doesn't exist? That's exactly the example they give here. Government represents a brief for the British Secretary of State of early March 1943 on the British attitude of an Albanian noted, "We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. They are trying to re-establish it. So the one that they do not see it to be in existence before or pre the re-establishment." We had Biafra in 1967. After the war, which took the life of almost 5 million women and children, and a war crime. Now, they now say that there is no victor, no vanquish. And the Effiong say Biafra ceased to exist. So what we are fighting for today is for us to re-establish that state. Pre the re-establishment of the state of Biafra, Biafra does not exist until we re-establish it, until we declare it, until we pull our flag up and we declare the Biafra state. And then if there is any reaction from anywhere, we will stand to defend the declaration of Biafra. Thus is the only time we are going to have government in situ or in exile. So let's continue to interpret it so that today we are going to bring it down to the layman's understanding. So that pre the establishment, it does not exist. So you must establish it first before it will come to existence. Now let's continue. State in the present context means a sovereign and independent state, as the Permanent Court of International Justice said in the Lighthouse, in the Crete and Samos case. An autonomous entity is not a state. An autonomous entity is not a state. Government in exile for autonomous region, such as Basque and the Catalan. Autonomous government in exile 1939 to 79 thus do not qualify as government in exile. Do not qualify as government in exile. This is autonomous that is already in existence. Autonomous that is already in existence was not recognized as a government in exile. Talk more of somebody who just woke up from his 2x2 room and tell you that he is prime minister. He choose his fellow Janjaweed and give them a post to say we are now government in exile. And he said to Biafra, "Oh, hey Biafra," some of those who reason from their backside, who does not understand, and they are hailing him as a prime minister of government in exile. This is exactly the reason why I am bringing it to you, so that you will understand exactly what you are doing to yourself. Because when we tell you that whenever we present whatever, we know that we are taking things one at a time, and we are going through a professional means to achieve our goals, and we are going to explore every diplomatic means in order to achieve what we are looking for. We are not going to undermine anything this time around. Like I always say, that we are going to form alliance with we are going to start from the continent of Africa, because the mistake we always make is that we always go and look for help from the people whom our predicament put food on their table. So we are not going to make such mistakes this time. We are going to present our case in the 52 African countries. We're going to present our case there. So that is exactly what we are going to do. So we want to educate our people so that in everything they are doing, they will know where they stand. They will know their stance. They will know their, what is obtainable, what is, what they can explore in the quest to achieve our freedom. Let us continue. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. It doesn't exist yet while they are planning to re-establish it. So it is only when they re-establish it, it will be in existence. Thus, no question of recognizing any Albanian government in exile arises at the present. So that is it. No question of recognizing any Biafra government in exile arises, because the people that we are sending our messages to, they will be looking at us believing that we are fools. They will be looking at us believing that what we are just making fool of ourselves. And that's exactly the reason why I brought this legal document, in order to kick back all this insult these people are bringing to us, because these are the same people who did everything and place our names in the list of terrorist index, even though we tried to distance ourselves from them because of how corrupt those IEs, the IEP, those people who manage such index, how corrupt they were. They decided to place our name. But I believe that we, the litigants are on their case right now. So we continue. In the present context means sovereign and independent state. As the Permanent Court of International Justice said, the Lighthouse in Crete and the Samos case, an autonomous entity is not a state. Government in exile for autonomous region such as Basque and the Catalan. Autonomous government in exile 1939 to 79 thus do not qualify as government in exile in the sense of international law. The Court of Appeal of Poitiers stated with respect to the Basque government while it enjoys a certain autonomy inside Spanish state, it is not sovereign and it is not recognized from the point of view of international law. The government in exile of Spanish autonomous region did not receive any recognition as government and must be regarded as autonomous division of the government in exile of the Spanish Republic. The criterion of legal existence of a sovereign independent state also militates today. Militate means prevent today against recognition of the government of Tibet in exile. Speaking on the 18th August 1958, the Indian Prime Minister submitted that Tibet was always looked upon and considered by the world community as being under the suzerainty of China. At no time did any country consider it independent. They considered it as autonomous under the suzerainty of China. Thus, even if Tibet was in law autonomous, what in fact, of course, it is not recognition of their Dalai Lama's government in exile as a government will not be possible. So, I hope you are listening. I believe that while I am reading, you will also be reading yourself, so that you will know that I am reading what is written in this document. So I am going to jump this part because this part is not, it is a lot of numbers there, which is not something that you're going to understand. So under the agreement of measure for the peaceful liberation of Tibet, the Tibet has right to national regional autonomy under the unified leadership of Central People's Government for the text of treaty. Okay, this is about, let me go to more general knowledge of it. Okay, let me see what it says. Without implying a change in the legal status of Tibet, recognition as government of Tibet would necessarily imply recognition of Tibet as a sovereign independent state and would justly be resented by the people of Republic of China. It is inter alia for this legal reason that no state recognizes the government of Tibet in exile as such. For example, the German foreign minister declared on 20th of June 1996 in the federal parliament that the federal government, as all government in the world, regard Tibet as part of the Chinese state. From this clear statement of international law, it follows that the federal government will not recognize the self-styled government of Tibet in exile. This is not formality, but a question of international law. Have you seen now where at least Tibet, they have declared their own thing, their autonomy. Now, this guy who is bringing to you, he's calling himself prime minister, addressing you as your prime minister, choose some janjaweed, irat, and put behind around a newspaper, around whatever they put it, and present to you, these are your government in exile. Those who, some of them does not even know how to write their name properly. They are your government in exile. Azuka that to dance naked in the public is also part of your government in exile. Soon they will have your faces of money. The reason why we are doing this, I want you to understand the exact people who come to your comment section to basically insult you. I want you to understand the type of people who come to your comment section to insult you. Let me bring it so that we will be looking at each other while we are actually talking about this. Because when you look at your comment section, you will see people who are coming to insult you. I want you to know that many of them are some of the packages that was, nominated and picked up by Loretta Onochie and co. Because, of course, you will understand that these people, they are making sure that they sponsor this guy to make us look like fools in the eyes of those we are calling upon to assist us in our struggle for freedom. That is what they are doing right now. I can categorically assure you that this is what they are doing. So that when the real people come up to do the real thing, to make a diplomatic move, it will be like a fool. Just like they have started, writing letters. Like, the letter he claimed he wrote to the United Nations, did you see what it was written there? Calling on United Nations to recognize him as a government in exile. How can United Nations recognize you as a government in exile when you don't have existing state? You don't have existing state. Have you now seen how fool he is making himself? And believe in us, you are making a fool out of yourself. You are not recognized from Situ, which is the place where you come from, that you claim you are their government. You are not recognized. You are not recognized in exile. So, you don't have a sovereignty yet, because we are now fighting to actually regain our sovereignty. And somebody is telling you they are already a government declaration of your sovereign state. They have already become a government. Oh God. This is the thing they are doing so that it will look like Igbo, because everybody wants to be a leader. That's exactly what they are trying to do. I want to inform the international communities that are actually under the influence of my voice, because like I said in my Twitter, we have a lot to offer the world and we have a lot to gain from the world. And that is the reason why we are not going to leave any stone unturned. We are going to lobby with all of them. We're not going to leave anyone behind this time around, starting from the continent of Africa. So, we do not have any such thing as government in exile as yet. if need be, we're going to establish it. We are only calling for our people to be protected in the place where they are domiciled, while advocating for the freedom of Biafra nation. That's what we are doing right now. We do not have any government in exile. Anybody, it is a faction. Just like you people are aware of, that to destroy an organization, you have to create a faction from those who are familiar with the organization in order to counter the narrative of that such organization, in order to destroy them if they are not firm enough to defend what they stand for. So that's exactly what we are going through now. And that is the reason why we are bringing it to the world to know that we are battling with such faction created by those who does not want our emancipation and who does not want us to gain our sovereignty. But that is not a problem, because we know what we are doing and we know what we are going after. It is Biafra, and we are not going back. Even if it is going to be that we are going to die restoring Biafra, that is exactly what we are going to be doing, because we have suffered under Nigeria and we are not going back there. In the last 63 years, we've been marginalized, we've been extrajudiciously killed. Now, as if it wasn't enough, 1967, the war crime all over the place. More than 3.5 million women and children killed. Who is held to account? Nobody. The warmonger Govt is still alive. He's still traveling abroad for medical checkup. That's when you say that the double face of this ICC of Roman status, it is not going to actually benefit us African anything, because they are doing selective, prosecution. They select whom to prosecute. So that's why we are making our stance for the world to hear us, because we never had media to report how our people were being killed in 1967. That's exactly the reason why we started with media this time around. We started it from the media, because they concealed the atrocities that they have committed against our people. The bloodiest war in Africa, it was concealed. Nobody heard about it in Africa, except those head of states who knew about it. But they didn't know the gravity of the war, because the war crime was actually hidden away from you guys. That's why we are bringing it back. We're not going back. So, let me read the last one, because I cannot finish it. It's a lot of things that is talking about, that is here. Without implying a change in the legal status of Tibet's recognition as government of Tibet would necessarily imply recognition of Tibet as a sovereign independent state, and would justly be resented by the people of Republic of China. It is inter alia for this legal reason that no state recognizes the government of Tibet in exile as such. For example, the German foreign minister declared on 20 June 1996 in the federal parliament that the federal government, as all governments in the world, regard Tibet as part of Chinese state. From the clear statement of international law, it follows that the federal government will not recognize self-styled government of the Tibet in exile. Self-styled. Just like it is happening now. Remember, these people, they already had their autonomy. But this one is just somebody who woke up from their sleep and style themselves and start calling themselves government in exile. For you to know these are people who are position mongers. That's why they place themselves they use collage, place themselves, give themselves positions, and then they present it to you. And some of you, although there is no Biafrans that are for, because this is the reason why other ethnic group will look at us and say we are, and see that we are not, yet, ready. Because when they set up a stunt like this, people are defending it. Oh, I know that many people who are defending it are Hausa Fulani, who are using Igbo names. That's exactly the people you see in your comment section defending this rubbish, their government in exile, because they were recruited to do so. Self-styled government, self-styled, when nobody recognize or know them in Biafra land, but they are in Finland and other places answering your government. Are you now seeing the way they want to destroy what we are doing? But they cannot, because we are more steps ahead of them and their plan. When I tell you that this is part of the Western agenda, you might think I am just speaking grammar. It is not a grammar, it is a very simple English. Western agenda. Have you now seen? They have advised him, go through this route of government in exile, because they haven't done it, so that they will not continue to prosecute you using their name. Go through it. In doing so, you will be sabotaging every international and diplomatic move that they are making, because you are declaring government in exile in the name that you are fighting for the same thing they are fighting. But we know all that. We know the politics, because what they want to bring into IPOB is political game. Politics. But so many of us who has been exposed in politics, we know when we see politics, the type of politics they are playing right now. It is the type of politics that it is like, when a diesel spill, it doesn't catch fire immediately. It takes time. When it catches fire, it takes long to be quenched. That's exactly what they are doing. They are like diesel. What they are doing, they are bringing it out. But we don't know where it affects us, because they are making the move that we are. They are replicating every move. That is exactly the reason why I applauded the DOS. Because every move they are making is not in the public domain. That's why these people, that's why I always say that we are ahead of them. We are more steps ahead of them and their, Western agenda. We are ahead of them. Anything they present, we will nullify it on arrival. Now they have presented their self-styled government in exile, giving those who does not know their names, giving in the Bagodula Ashawo in America, Bagida Ashawika Ashawa Kuchionwoke, giving them small time. They tell you that these 10 people will be in your note. People who went to America and they after standing on the street, they are tired now. I know that you people don't know the reason why they call them America. These are the people that their face will be in your currency, according to the self-styled idiot in Finland. Now, let us continue. Colonial possession and self-governing territories are also not sovereign and independent states. The government in exile of Burma in Simla, India, the Philippines, the Washington and the Netherlands East Indies, in Brisbane, Australia during the Second World War, as well as the exile government for the Portuguese state of India, which was established in Lisbon on 17 February 1962 after the India invasion of Goa, Damor and Dio. We are not government in exile in the sense of international law, and we are not recognized as such. This government were rather maintained or established as a symbol showing that the colonial or administering power regarded the loss of its territory only as temporarily. In no way were they to imply a change of status of the territories. Have you seen? For example, these people, remember that in this paragraph, they conquered some territory, but yet they cannot call themselves government in it. They have conquered some territory. They have something they are in control of. But this guy that, is in Finland has never declared anything. He never conquered anything. He didn't even conquer his village and call himself a government there in order to have maybe autonomy of his village. And before he declared government in exile, have you now seen that it is making a fool out of you? I'm not going to read it further, because if I continue to read, there are many things. Upon your request, I will actually make it available to you. Then you will read it to understand what a government in exile is. Because that's why I made a short video saying that where is the declaration of Biafra before having a government? Because we need to wake up and say, from today henceforth, we are in control of our territory. We will have our military in check, or our armed resistance in check. We declare our territory, and we say that we don't want anything Nigeria to be, interfering in this territory. We will resist every of their interference. That's when we will select government, and from there, those government will go to exile in order to be protected. That's when, if they want, because the government must start from situ to the exile. That's why I said in that short video, which I posted in IPOB Mazi and DOS, which it must start from situ. There must be a government then before it goes to exile. You cannot just wake up from where you are, you decided to call yourself, I am a prime minister, when nobody know you. Who are you prime ministering over? Because you are in the North country, they do prime ministering. You don't even know the type of government setup or we are going to have. But you have already given yourself a prime minister, self-conceited. Those are the people you saw that are claiming they are government in exile. They are self-conceited. They don't care about you. It is all about them. It is anything revolves about them. Once they are being controlled by their Western agenda, they will be carrying out everything that is being plotted and given them. Play this script. This is the time you need to leave this part. Go to the other side. Plan B need to be activated. They keep on doing what they knew nothing about. And some idiots will be in the comment section and they will be promoting them. Errats. Of course, some of them are not human beings. Some of them are animals, because Nigeria is a zoo. For the sake of clarity, a place where people cannot be protected, rather be killed. It is a zoo. A place where people cannot speak their mind and be alive. It is a zoo. A place where there is no law. You will arrest people, or you will take people from a particular location, and you take them away from their jurisdiction. You will not report them to their police station. You take them to another place. You can transport them like 500 kilometers from where you pick them up without reporting them to their jurisdiction. It means that it is not a country. It is a zoo. Banana Republic, if I may put it in a way you will understand it better. A country that go and violate international sovereignty rights. Territorial integrity of Kenya was violated by Nigeria by going to kidnap Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and extraordinary rendition him from Kenya to Nigeria. Have you seen the type of zoo Nigeria is? Because they see Nigeria as the biggest economy in Africa. People are scared of them, including Kenya. Including Kenya. Where is your territorial integrity, Kenya people? Where is their territorial integrity? Of course, they don't know what is territorial integrity. That's why a country will wake up, fly to their country, kidnap somebody, fly them. The only thing the Kenya people could say is that technically, this man is still in Kenya, technically. Then why don't you ask question, how did this man now leave Kenya? Since technically he is still in Kenya. These are the things we continue to ask African leaders. Who did this to you people? Because of this territorial integrity that you don't understand the importance of it. That is the reason why some people will come from big world. They will create terrorism. It will start ravaging, ransacking your villages. Ordinary people will pay for it. You political class will be enjoying. Just like what is happening in Sudan today. Sudan. As I am speaking from earlier on, it was reported that 40 people were killed. 40 were killed. How many? And if you investigate around this problem happening in Sudan, Western interest and Russian interest. I don't know if the Russia have interest there, but there is a fight between these people. Now the ordinary people in Sudan, because they are black monkeys, that's what they see them. They will be killed, dashed. Now you will listen to African Union, for African Union to intervene as a central body that's supposed to stand for every countries and inside the continent. African Union will come and make a media statement. We're not going to do it through violent means. Instead of reacting as a central body, instead of start acting, they will make a media statement. That's it. People continue to die. We haven't started. That is the reason why we, this generation, we refuse to go through this path that you people went through. Because so many of you who are in the seat or position of leadership, you want to ruin the future that you will not going to be part of. That's what makes me mad. Because you are ruining it knowing that maybe 1 decade you die. You join your ancestors. We will still be here. Or some of our children will still be here. Continue to suffer as a result of the mistake and your selfishness that you have implemented where they are going to grow up. You're not going to be part of the future that you are ruining for us. Likewise in Nigeria. Just like what is going on in Nigeria. Let me show you this news. Let's go to this news because very, very important that so that we will understand the person, how people are rigged into power. We continue to say it. They will only make a media statement. After media statement, that's it. Nothing will be done about it. Nothing. Listen to this. This is foreign policy. Foreign policy. Let's hear what foreign policy said. US held Nigeria election result while election observers cried foul. Have you now seen the reason why Chimamanda wrote to the United States president? She wrote to the United States president because the election observers cried foul. They dictated there are many fouls in this election, and yet US hailed the Nigeria election result. Have you now seen the authenticity of the report that is here, that is actually in that letter written by our learned sister Chimamanda? But I have told her to convert this energy of hers to protect and defend her people. Nigeria will never work and will never work for anybody. Except if you understand that this diversity that we have is a dangerous diversity. It is not just this normal diversity that you see in other countries. Ours is a very, very dangerous diversity that kills people. How can I know? It is like now telling America and Russia to be together. Because this is what they did in Nigeria. You tell USA and Russia, they must come closer to each other and share the same border. And be together, be friends. Is it possible? It is not possible. That will be a dangerous diversity. There are diversities that doesn't make sense. That is the diversity you found in Nigeria. Dangerous diversity that is taking people's lives, forming a bloodbath all over the place. Is there any day that police did not kill somebody in Nigeria? Is there a day that you will not hear police brutality in Nigeria? Is there a day that you will not hear bandits killed? The lives of the Hausa people in the north matters. Yet, our diversity is our strength. That's what they continue to tell us. But a Yoruba man does not care about the Hausa man in the north. Hausa man does not care about the Yoruba man in the west. A Biafran man does not care about Hausa man in the... Maybe Biafran man might care about Hausa man in the north. Because we have this thing we call... We don't understand humanity. But a Hausa man might not care about a Biafran man. Now you bring Fulani, who is the blood suckers. Fulani terrorists. Every day they are killing people in the north, displacing them, ransacking villages, maiming them. The life of Hausa people, it matters. And you ask yourself, why is it that nobody is reporting, nobody is there calling for the safety and saying that the life of Hausa people matters? Yet they tell you your diversity is your strength, but none of you, under this dangerous, diverse nation, nobody look out there for themselves, for other people. They are all self-conceited. I gave you an example. When you bring Russia and the USA, or China and the USA, to have themselves close to each other. Not even make them one nation. Bring them close to each other. Because that is, America was coming close to Russia border in Ukraine. That's what caused Ukraine war, right? Because these two individual nations doesn't like each other. They're fighting for power. So this one is coming closer to this border. It caused a war. Territorial integrity must be protected. That is as a result of what's going on in Ukraine. No matter what they try to tell us, we're not buying the story because we know the real thing. Talk more of bringing Jacobs, Pharaohs, among others, together. Historically, these people never loved themselves. These people never gotten along. These were different set of people who has never gotten along with each other in the past. Because Britain knows that it is a good business for them When we bring this amalgamation of these divert ethnic groups, divert different culture that doesn't even have anything in common, we can't even relate with each other, we bring them together while they continue to fight themselves, we continue to exploit their resources, and China is also in. China is now also mining your resources, building resistance. Very soon they will start sponsoring terrorism even in that area, because they are mining these resources with the big guns and different weapons. The next thing, they will look for people to protect them. They will discover more resources. They will place terrorism there, just like the West always do. Because if you look at all these things happening in Africa, it is about people hustling with Africa. And if we don't stop it, we will not have a future to live for our children. That is the fact. If we don't start now, we might not have any future that we are going to live for our children, because these people are hustling on us. And you don't blame them. They know they can. That's why they are. We blame ourselves, who are lame. We cannot even stand up for what is rightfully ours. We are waiting for who will do it. Gaddafi stood up to do it. He was sabotaged by the same African leaders. He was taken out. Individualism. The problem of Africa, black man, individualism. Anytime we understand that, we need to make sure that whatever that is going to come to Africa, we join force and fight our common enemy. There comes the Pan-African movement. Because their preaching is all about we unite Africa, but they have never bring to a table resolution on how to unite Africa. They have never bring to a table education that will make Africa dangerous diversity to end. That will bring colonial put together, colonial manipulations in Africa. They have never brought education or a system that will destroy every colonial setups that is causing chaos on the continent. But they keep telling you we are going to unify Africa. Unify them on what ground? Africa is tribalistic in nature. Africa is very tribalistic in nature. If you understand it, that is the reason why the first thing African man will ask you, where are you from? Where are you from? You are the same color. Just hearing your that your accent doesn't sound like them, they without thinking that you might be born in another country but you are from their country, they will ask you, where are you from? It is part of this tribalistic. So, at the end of it, the colonialists saw that as an entry level. These people are so diverse. Let's select the ones that doesn't like each other. Historically, they've been fighting. Historically, they've been trying to compete with each other. This is dangerous competition, not just a healthy competition. There is a healthy competition. These people, they have been trying, they clean each other, they don't come, their boundaries, they are too territorial. Let's just find a way to bring these people together. We will make them a biggest country. As long as we will take this Janjaweed that doesn't even know where they come from. We will make them the leader of these people. Give them police, give them gun, give them everything. And they will be ruling over these ones who have the resources. Those who have the resources. And while they use this Janjaweed caliphate, ruling over those who have the resources, killing them, intimidating them, marginalizing them, And the only thing people will say is that they want to unify Africa, not knowing that there is a bad seed, that bad egg that is already planted among us in Africa. How can you unite us with the bad egg? You need to remove the chaff from the wheat, then you unify the wheat. That's exactly the most important thing. The Pan-Africanism need to start going through, that channel. Because when you say we need to unify Africa, I agree, we need to come together, but we need to destroy everything that has never been African. We need to destroy them. Once we destroy them, the unification process proceed. First of all, the first unification you need to think about, it is through economic unification. Economy. Build a central bank. Build a currency that every Africa will be using. One currency, just like the initiative of Muammar Gaddafi before they eliminated him. The same thing that the Chinese and BRICS are going to do right now. It is Muammar Gaddafi's initiative. They are going to establish a currency that is backed up by gold. That's why gold is reaching up to 2,000 mark per fine ounce. Because now gold is essential commodity. Gold is now expensive because the value has gone up, skyrocketed. Because the value of gold now is in manifestation. Because it is going to back up currencies. That is part of the de-dollarization we talk about. Now, when we are looking at, we are seeing the initiative of an African man being captured and being utilized, while it is not going to be fully in favor of Africa. We continue to buy this. I support BRICS. I like them. I like their initiative. Because it is only when you look at those who hurt Africa the most, it is the Europeans. It is not the Russians. Even though Russia was manipulated to fight Biafrans in 1967 to supply weapons that they used to fight Biafrans to Nigeria by Britain. But we know that they didn't hear the side of the story. That's why I love one of the stories of Chimamanda, where he said she talked about a single story. She talked about a single story. When you are listening from a single story, you will actually, basically make mistake. You might end up condemning somebody you are not supposed to condemn. That was exactly what I believe that transpired when Britain convinced Russia to supply weapons that they will use to kill Biafrans. It happened. We will not pretend as if it never happened. It happened. But it doesn't make us to hate the Russia, because if not Britain, it wouldn't have happened. It is all about Britain. Britain killed our more than 3.5 million women and children. They have never apologized for it. Yet they are still singing praises of one Nigeria. Their envoy come to Nigeria, they become like a bureaucrat. They will be making decisions for the people that is democratically elected into government. They will be running the government from the background. That's what they do. You want people like us who have woken up to the knowledge of the truth, who understand what is going on in this politics that they are playing with our lives. And you expect us to still be there and watch these things destroy the future. Our future, most of our futures, we agree that it is already destroyed, because we are going out of age that we are going to say that we are still the future leader, the leader of tomorrow. It is now our offspring that are going to be the leader. So we need to build a ground that they are going to stand upon to be the best leader of tomorrow. We are not going to allow these old people who will not be there in that future that we are going to leave for our children. and we allow them to destroy it for our children, it will not happen. Even if it was going to be we die doing it, you will go to heaven. I can assure you. If you die doing the right thing, you go to heaven. That is very, very important stuff that we need to tell ourselves. Just like Walo Soyinka is pushing, because it is his brother. He's pushing because he knows he's old. No matter what happened, very soon he's joining his ancestors. He will no longer be here. You that is there, as a Yoruba man, you saw what is going on. You saw that this person is not the right person for you. Just because it is a Yoruba president, you accept it. Instead of fighting for your freedom, fighting for the total liberation of Oduduwa land, so that you will live. You say you are bragging that you have intellectuals, you have people, great men. I agree with you, you have them. But that you have them and you are still staying in the zoo. They have not done any significant, help towards your life or the life of where they come from. Because Nigeria is still going to be a zoo. Whether you give it to your people to be the president. When Obedient was coming out, we never supported him. You know why? Because we know that Nigeria will not give him the presidency. It is going to be the waste of our time. And we never want to be the one to be blamed about it. That is the reason why we didn't want to ruin it. We actually allow him to roll, so that the whole world will see what we are saying. Did it not happen? It happened. The same thing as we predicted it. Because Nigeria is very, very predictable. They don't have shame. You will predict what they are going to do in the next hour. In the next hour, they will still do the same thing without being shameful. They do it the same way you predicted it. That is Nigeria for you. So why are we fooling ourselves in this place? Why can't we just do the right thing? Go your ways, let me go my way. Let us form a common ground. We bring a open, if we're going to have open border policy, if we are going to even have the same currency, if we are going to have, free trade, we do it for the benefit of those who dwell in that region. We don't love ourselves. We must stop pretending. That's why when Yoruba see you in abroad, they tell you that your brother. They call a fellow zoological Republican to tell you, is that your brother? Instead of calling them, they don't see you as their brother. It is only people from there who see all of you Nigerians as brothers. But we Nigerians, we don't see ourselves as brothers. So what are you going to call it? And they tell you diversity is your strength, without telling you that you have a dangerous diversity. It is not just a diversity like others. We have never done anything together. We have never fought side by side against our enemies. But we have fought ourselves. We have fought ourselves. Imagine Ahmadu Bello say before he came here, which means they were not Nigerians. They just came to conquer Nigeria. Britain gave them the power to rule over you. And you believe it is Muslim ticket of Tinubu that is using caretaker to pay. Tinubu that has a reserve hospital bed in Europe. He himself knows that he's not going to do much. He doesn't have that strength anymore. Why then are you wasting the time of the youth? Why? To be honest with you, I don't even support Obi, because that's not what we are looking for. We are looking for total liberation of our land, the sovereignty of our people, so that we have a territorial integrity. That's what we are looking for. So many of you who believe that we are castigating Tinubu because we want to be. No, that's not the case. We know what we are looking for. We are not confused. We are not a bunch of confused people. Maybe some of, Yoruba people who claim they were fighting freedom, they are confused today. They don't know what they want because Tinubu must have promised them heaven on earth, giving them money. But believe you me, after 3 years now, you will see them coming back again when the money finish. Coming back to claim they are fighting for freedom. Wasting your time. Waiting for the next person who will come for the second tenure. That's what they do. They are a bunch of criminals. Consistency is the key. You know, there is only one person in that, that I always see online. He's doing great. He's a Yoruba guy. I love him. He's doing great. He's been consistent in what he does. I don't remember his name, but if I remember his name, I will mention his name. He's been good. There are good Yorubas. A lot of them. Millions of them. But what about those who claim they are fighting for your freedom? At the end of the day, they collected. They relax. You won't see them talk. Even when there is a problem, you won't see them talk. They just act like they don't exist. But they were talking when they claim that there will be no election in Yoruba land and Biafra land. They were talking. They came online. These were people we respected. We used them as our wallpapers. We respected them. Have you seen how fake your love is? That's how our leader said it. Have you seen how fake your love is? Only presidency, your love faded. And that's by the way. Let us reiterate from the polling policy what they wrote about the Nigerian election. It said U.S. held Nigeria election result while election observers cry foul. Okay, and how Washington congratulate foreign leaders on the continuous election victory matters. Now listen. As independent U.S. election observers raise alarm bells about widespread voting irregularities in Nigeria February 25 presidential election, the U.S. State Department was singing the entirely different tune, congratulating Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the electoral victor and hailing a competitive election that represents a new period of Nigeria politics and democracy. Have you now seen the double face? The U.S. observers was crying there is a foul play in the election. There were irregularities in the election. Then U.S. is praising. Have you now seen the reason why Chimamanda's letter was valid? It's valid. It is valid. Now, and the words and their terminologies is well suiting to the result of that election. Let's continue to read. The stark split screen in how independent election observers and State Department responded to Nigeria election caused anger and backlash in Washington among the U.S. agencies and Congress, which criticized the State Department for being too quick to endorse an election victor, just as opposition leaders were mounting legal challenges to contest the outcome. Have you now seen the double face? Because it is good business for them. That's why they rush without even listening to the election observers who observed that there were irregularities during that election. Okay, let's continue to read. While other world powers were cautiously assessing all voting irregularities, the withholding the congrats message, we just decided to skip ahead a few steps and tout Tinubu as a winner. Have you now seen a U.S. telling their fellow U.S.? And I just can't understand why filmed one U.S. official who works on African policy, who spoke on condition of anonymity, given the stake here. It given the stakes here, it had to see how that wasn't just really bad idea, said another US official. That wasn't just really bad idea, said another US official. Nigeria presidential vote constituted one of the most closely watched and significant election of the year. Okay, let me read it again from top, so that I think I missed something there. I just can't understand why filmed one US official who works on African policy, who spoke on condition of anonymity. Given the stake here, it had to see how that wasn't just a really bad idea, said another US official. It is like both of them are having some disagreement. Nigeria presidential vote constituted of one of the most closely watched and significant election of the year. The 70-year-old Tinubu, former governor of Lagos, Nigeria, Lagos State, who is seen as a wealthy kleptocratic kingmaker in Nigeria politics, compete against leading opposition candidate Atiku Abubakar and third-party candidate Peter Obi. The election were marred by widespread account of voter irregularities, sporadic violence at polling stations, disorderly delays, and other logistical issues. These were the elections they have congratulated. These were the first election of the year in the largest democracy on the youngest continent, said Mark Green, president and CEO of the Wilson Center and former chief of the U.S. agencies for international development. They are important for Nigeria, obviously, and the consolidation of democracy. They are important to the region because stability in Nigeria is the link chipping to stability in that whole region. Okay, that's why Mandela say if you get Nigeria right, you get the Africa right. And to get Nigeria right, it is total disintegration of Nigeria. The U.S. message to Tinubu, which acknowledged frustration for the Nigeria and shortcomings in the process, stand in sharp contrast to how the United States reacted to Kenya 2022 presidential election. In that case, Washington waited until Kenya's Supreme Court upheld the result of the election nearly a few months later before issuing statement congratulating William Ruto on his win. Okay, now, but in Nigeria case, they congratulated even knowing that there is a court proceedings. That is the double standard also there. Critics of the administration stance on the Nigeria election argue that the statement from the State Department isn't just statement. The United States has significant political diplomatic clout in West Africa, and some U.S. officials who spoke to foreign policy said its decision to publicly congratulate Tinubu before legal and legitimate election challenges could indirectly undermine those challenges before they even begin. Have you now seen that there is a foul play, and the reporter actually is insisting that US is not supposed to congratulate Nigeria because there were election irregularities, there were foul plays. Now bringing you the same statement or the same message that was written to the Joe Biden administration by Chimamanda. Why would they congratulate election where there were so many irregularities and the US decided to say congratulations, knowing, but in the Kenya, during the time of the Kenya one, they waited for the court to finish before they sent their congratulatory message. Have you seen the double standard? Have you seen that what is going on in Nigeria? Have you seen the reason why they masked the Buhari? After he died, they mask him and bring him back. After he died, he came back to life. Have you seen the reason why they need old people who are on their dying bed to be there, even though election was rigged? But these are the people going about preaching democratic process, preaching free and fair election. Why are they congratulating a person after the observers from USA noticed a lot of irregularities, foul plays during the election? These are problems. These are the things. Some of you who are prosecuting or who are fighting with Chimamanda for writing a letter to the United States, have you seen it? This is reporting directly from foreign policy. Foreign policy. That is, this report is coming from them. And it will not stop Nigeria from making Tinubu a president. I'm not going to continue reading. It will not stop them from making Tinubu a winner of the election and crowning him. Of course, we don't have any urge for being Nigeria. We don't have any intention of being Nigerian. All we are asking for is our sovereign nation of Biafra, and we are going to get it, regardless of what it is going to take. We're going to get our Biafra. We are. So, let me check. I believe I have treated what I am here for. The last thing but not the least, those who are calling for Walo Soyinka and Chimamanda to debate, you people have a problem. You know, it is not sensible. It is not sensible, you know, for you to call on such debate. You cannot, you know, call a man who is said to create a organization that have taken the life of 1.8 million people with his influence. And I want you to understand that anybody that is being celebrated, you know, in that regard of Walo Soyinka, you should understand that there is something behind it. Anybody that is being celebrated by the West, there is always something behind the celebration. Being an African man, being celebrated by the Western world, I can assure you there is a lot of if you dig deep, there is something that is not in favor of Africa that person is doing. And the same applies to anybody that has been celebrated by the West in the name that they have done this, they have done that. But at the end of the day, you will not see how it has impacted the society where they are positively. You will understand what I am saying. It's not a criticism, it is wisdom. So we are calling on international communities, international bodies to address this craziness of these people who are calling themselves Prime Minister of Biafra or writing nonsense letters to recognize Biafra government in exile. We have not introduced government in exile because we have not yet declared the sovereign nation of Biafra. We are just calling on wherever our people are to be protected, to know that Nigeria is not a country but a contraption that goes about kidnapping people, goes about calling terrorists bandits and protecting them, saying that people, just like the activities of the terrorists in the northern Nigeria, Hausa people are dying. I pity them. In as much as we don't like each other, but no one needs to die. No one deserves to die. All we're supposed to do is to make sure that we stop those things that is killing our people. Killing people. No one deserves to die in the hands of these criminals called terrorists. And Nigeria is aiding them. They are aiding them. All you will hear is that military killed 2, and then the terrorists killed 50. Military killed 5, nabbed 5, and Nigeria terrorists killed 100 in fresh attack. And tomorrow you will hear 100 Boko Haram, 1,000 Boko Haram 1,000 terrorists has been reintegrated or rehabilitated. They are protecting these terrorists because they say it is their own people. When you try, the reason why they gave you the old sickly man, it is because we resisted terrorists from going into our bushes and killing us the way they are killing the Hausa people today. That's why they cause problem between the West and the East in Nigeria. To get back at us, taking Muslim ticket. But so many people does not know it. But these Yoruba people who are championing, it is our turn, it is our turn. What Fulani will do to you. Mark my word today's date. What Fulani will do to you people. That is when you will know that when you are dining with the devil, you use a very long fork, so that you will be, before they will come to you, you choke them with it. That is very important. All these things, it is our turn, it is our turn, it is your turn to destruction. Nigeria has expired. Stop fooling yourself. Let's do this thing like matured people, so that we will have a mutual respect and relationship after we parted ways. Because it is a must that we are going to part ways. It is not negotiable. We cannot continue to set up a futuristic bloodbath for our children. We must solve this problem in our lifetime. The challenge begins. We are going to see to it. We are going to be live on Radio Biafra tomorrow. Basically, I believe is it 2 o'clock Biafra time or 3 o'clock Biafra time. We're going to be live on Radio Biafra tomorrow to navigate some issues, very, very important issues. So make sure you tune in that regard. So, great and wonderful people of Biafra, just like I said, I don't have I can't speak, I can't stay in front of the light so much, so that's why I cut my broadcast very short today, unlike before that I will run it through for 3 hours. But it is very important that our people must be reminded there is no such thing like government in exile. Let those who are fooling themselves continue to fool themselves. We know what we are doing. We know what is the time now. It is the time for us to continue to form alliances with those who understand our cry, those who are Pan-African, who don't understand that it is time for Africa to wake up, to destroy every barrier of economic success, to destroy every barrier that is preventing her from achieving her goals. And that barrier that we have, it is the amalgamation which brings the dangerous diversity that we are suffering today. Britain is living on our blood, and that's exactly what we are trying to stop. When a child rises up to look for their own right, they become a bad child. We are going to be a bad child as long as we actually assuage those things that is taking our lives, that is cutting the life of the youth short in the hands of the law enforcers, in the hands of the terrorists we call Fuladis. We are going to stop it in this our generation. All these international bodies, we are going to duly address you people in no distance time. We are going to communicate. We are going to make sure we formally introduce ourselves to you guys very soon. So, until we meet again, stay safe, stay informed. Bye for now.